Okay, for this video, we're going to paint the mango. So we're going to start this the same way that we started the grapefruit, and that is just working with an overall base color. So in order to get this color, it's basically a yellow green, if we're just kind of looking at the base. So a little bit of yellow, add green, and we're going to want to make quite a bit of this. So we add a little more yellow. And then we will tint it down with white. So I'm going to add just a little more yellow. All right, that's pretty well mixed. So we're going to want to curve all of our brush strokes again, so much like what we did with the grapefruit. So even though this is the base coat and most of this will just get covered up, we still want to curve those brush strokes. And while I'm painting, I'm going to kind of touch up some of these edges. So it was where my background color covered up part of the mango shape. So again, we're just going to paint this entire thing, and then we'll add our dark values. So again, we want to start with our base coat of paint, and then we will move into the dark values and then work into the light values. So again, with painting, it's always going to be a lot easier if you work dark to light. Now, since I've already painted the grapefruit, I just need to be extra careful so I'm not getting paint on the grapefruit. Otherwise, I'm going to just have to go back in and touch that up, but we don't want to do that. So, all right, got our base coat down. So now I'm going to work with my shadow color. So in this case, we have this yellow green. So the complement of yellow green would be red violet. So we can mix up a red violet. We can also just do purple and this yellow green, that would even work, or even just red and this yellow green. So we're going to do a little bit of red, pick up some of this yellow green color. And then I am going to add a bit of purple just to darken this up quite a bit. Oops. And I'm actually going to work with a couple different colors. So there's my violet. I'm going to go ahead and mix this. And so with the mango, we actually have several different colors that are happening. There's the yellow green, there's the red, there's the darker shadow colors. So you have to work with several different ones. So out of all the fruit that we're working with, this is probably going to be the most tricky. So we're going to start this like what we did with the grapefruit. So I'm just going to set down dark color here. And rather than go into my base color next, you can see that there's some red. And I'm just going to get red and blend the red into this shadow color. So again, with this mango, there are several different colors happening and blending together. And then after I do the red, I will get my base color and mix it into this red. So now we're going to go back, put our base color down, and we're going to, so I'm just going to set this right on the edge here, and then we're going to blend that red into that. And while I'm doing this, I just want to make sure that I'm curving my paint value or curving my brush strokes. It's kind of a stray chunk of paint. Needed to pick that up. So this may take a little bit of work trying to get all these colors to blend together, but they will. Just have to be patient and just trust the process. So as I'm blending this, I'm going to go back to my brush that has some red on it. I'm going to try and get the rest of that to blend in. And if you get a little bit of paint on the areas of the red apple or the lemon, that's all right. That'll just get covered up once we start working with those objects. Another stray chunk of paint, just kind of dried a little bit, that's all. Now, the reason that this is a little more difficult for painting the mango is you're trying to blend a warm color, that being the red, into a fairly cool color, which is what we were creating for the shadow. And then you're also blending the red into this base color, which is uh, pretty warm. I mean, it's got yellow, it has the green, but it's bright. So we're really seeing it more as a warm color than a cool. And then think about your pressure that you're applying. So that can make a difference. Right now I'm just barely touching the brush to these areas to help blend that base green or the base yellow green into that red color. So now I'm going to go back in with this base. And remember, with tempera paint, your paint is going to dry a bit lighter than how it looks when you originally put it down. So when it's wet, it always looks a lot darker. Then we do have some red in this area, so I still have some red on my brush. Just going to brush that in. So it's right underneath where we have that kind of dark oval. A little bit more right here. Then I'm going to make a bit of a tint of my base color, and I'm going to paint that near the top. So I'm just going to get some white, mix it in right here. It's maybe a little too light, so add a little bit more. And if I get a brush without any paint on it, it'll allow me to kind of blend that highlight in a little better. There we go. Now I still need to do the really bright highlight that's underneath that dark oval. So for this highlight, I'm going to get white and get just a touch of yellow. And so with this texture, I'm not going to stipple it nearly as much as I did before with the grapefruit, but I am going to put this value down. And I'm going to get a brush that doesn't have any paint on it. Kind of go over that just a little bit, kind of lessen the intensity of it. And there's a bit of a highlight here. Then I'll do the same thing. And I'm going to go over this one more time to really kind of brighten that one little spot on the highlight. So this highlight curves just a little bit, so it starts to kind of curve around. There's a little fleck of highlight right underneath that one too, I just noticed. Now, what I also need to do is we are going to add value to where that little oval is. And so with that, I'm just going to go back to this color because it's pretty dark. And all this is, we're just going to fill this in. So there's not much difference in value that we're seeing in the photo for this area. Main thing is to get the shape. And I can darken the shadow just a little bit. Then go back over that and blend that in. And I need to darken right here also. So I'm going to blend this dark value that I just put down. There we go. And I'm going to carry this up just a little bit further. The shadow dark value goes a little bit higher. So this is pretty minor, but I still want to do it. Now, last thing I really need to look at and do is the shadow underneath the mango. So our tabletop surface is green. So we want to think about that. And then my shadow color, I could use this color again. It's pretty similar. So I'm going to use this color and then just mix in a little more green with this. So with this shadow, what happens is the shadow starts pretty dark and then it kind of fades out as it goes toward the edge of the wooden box. So what I'm going to do is just paint this in there. A little shadow right here. And I want to diffuse that just a little bit. So after I paint it, I'm going to take a brush without any paint on it and just kind of go over the edges a little. So the brush I'm using is dry. There's no paint on it. And what it's doing, it's taking that dark shadow color that I just worked with, and it's kind of creating a soft, out of focus appearance underneath it. I'm just going to carry this a little bit further over. So there's that edge of the lemon. All right, so there's the mango. So we have our shadows, kind of darker shadow near the bottom. I mean, I could even probably darken that just a little bit more because it lightened up after it dried a little bit. So I can get my color, put a little bit here and kind of fade it up just a little. And I'm going to get my red. Blend this in back into this. Because these shadows are key because those are important because it helps your object look more three-dimensional. Because remember, we're working on a flat surface, a 2D surface, and we're trying to represent something that is three-dimensional. So that's why these shadows, the highlights, the midtones, that's why all of these are so important. I'm just gonna use some like quick, almost stippling type texture just to bring some texture back into the mango. Now we're getting that red to pop a little bit more that shows up in the photo. Do a little bit here too. So now I just barely have any red paint on my brush. So I'm just kind of like dry brushing some of that red on there. Got a little bit of that base green back on my brush just to kind of blend that a little. Then we can even add little things like there's some kind of darker marks on the mango right there. So I'm just going to take my brush. It has some of that dark shadow color that I just used down at the bottom. Just very lightly. I'm going to put it down with one brush and go back in and kind of break it up with a brush without any paint on it. So this is a way just to add more interest to your painting just because you're creating some like faux textures. And by going back over it, this just kind of breaks it up so it's not nearly as dark. And if you do get it a little too dark, you can just take a little bit of your base color on a brush and kind of go over it a little, and it'll tone it down just a touch. So essentially, you're just putting a real thin paint layer over it. And I'm just going to reshape the top of my mango. It got a little misshapen. All right, so there's the mango.